All right, guys, welcome back. We have episode number 5 of the Cleaning Business Audit. Today we have on an awesome guest, Parker Smith, currently living in Miami. He's been running a cleaning company for a little over 3 years now. Parker, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. It's great to be here. I would say, I have done a lot of podcasts about business, but not actually gotten so into the nitty gritty about cleaning. So just excited to share some value and to just chop it up with you. And Max, I don't want to correct you too early in the episode, but yeah, I'm about 2 years into it, not 3
2
yet.
years.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Wow, even earlier than I thought. Your growth has been crazy, though. But Parker, I'm sure the audience is going to have a lot to learn from you. If you don't mind, could you tell the audience a little bit about when you got into the cleaning business and why you got into it about 2 years ago?
Yeah. So it was, Q4 of 2023. I was a recently retired professional athlete. I got to a point where I was like, I can't play sports anymore. And because of my pursuit of playing pro sports, I never finished school. I never had an internship. I never, I didn't have any of the traditional experience because my priority was always my sport. I was a Division I soccer player and then a professional soccer player. And so at the time, it was like, this is amazing. It allowed me to climb the ranks, get to where I wanted to be. Then when I got hurt while playing, I was just like, now what? I basically was either back to school or it was try something on my own. Now, did I think it was going to be a cleaning business or a home service business? Absolutely not. I kind of fell into the model through a piece of content, seeing someone that I had previously known and previously, done some like kind of gig work with in the past, talking about remote cleaning, talking about a remote home service business. And I was like, this seems interesting. I've really got to pick something up here or I'm going to be back in night classes. And I did not want to do that. So I just kind of dove into it and I had a mentor at the time and then was trying to testing my own strategies and my own stuff and really found some pretty immediate success in the first 3 months there. And then was just like, all right, I'm going to double down on this and have kind of gone since then.
Cool. And what did you like about the remote or cleaning business? It's not as remote as people say, but what did you like about the whole cleaning industry? Like, why cleaning out of everything?
Yeah, well, for me, it really started as the lowest barrier to entry because it was so accessible to find service providers. And it was something that, like, I really felt very confident that I could pick up quickly, right? Like, if I went into, let's just say, pressure washing, okay, finding somebody who has a full rig for pressure washing and is just looking for someone to funnel them jobs, much more difficult than finding somebody who has a broom, a mop, a rag, and a bottle of multi-purpose cleaner, right? Like that's much
Yeah.
more likely. And then the second thing is I don't know a damn thing about pressure washing. Now, I didn't know that much about cleaning, but I at least still understood, okay, bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage of a house, how long things roughly take. Like, I at least had an idea. And I could look at something and say, yeah, this is clean or dirty. So that was really where it started. And then, truly it just became something where I loved the recurring aspect of it. I loved that, like, if I could send a team out that really would deliver, the people would just want to come back time and time again. And I could just keep getting paid on that same job.
Yeah, and I know you have a bunch of cleaning businesses now. You have a few of your own and you partner with a bunch of other people as well. Let's just talk about the businesses you currently own. If you feel comfortable sharing, how much revenue per month are you guys currently doing?
Yeah, so for the 3 locations that I am a majority owner in, or actually, I guess one of them I'm not a majority, but I have a large stake, right? Like we're talking like 30% plus. So for those 3 locations on the cleaning side, we're doing just about 70K a month. I think I tallied up the numbers before we jumped on here. Last month it was somewhere like 67. This month it's on track to be closer to probably 75, but we are kind of coming into that time of year here.
Awesome. Are those 3 locations, are they all under the same brand?
No, they're all under 3 different brands, 3 different states, 3 different everything. The only thing that they have in common is that they're all in the Midwest.
Okay. Okay, cool. So there's a lot of different challenges that I've noticed, like when my company was at $50,000, $60,000 a month in revenue, that I don't think as many people will be able to relate to because they're usually, most people watching this probably aren't at that point. Let's go back, Parker, to when you're just starting your first cleaning company in those first 3 months. I know you said you had success pretty quickly in the first 3 months. What are some of the things you struggled with in those first 3 months? And what are some of the best, most high leverage things that you did do in those first 3 months to help you grow?
Yeah, well, one of the things that everyone that I know struggles with, unless you just get super lucky, and I got super lucky and still struggled with it, is getting your first really good staff members. I mean, your staff will make or break your company. If not now, 3 months from now, 6 months, at some point, if you are building this giant house of cards on a terrible staff, it's gonna come tumbling down. And you know, for my very first location, I was extremely blessed. The first provider that I ever hired ended up bringing her husband with her eventually, and then bringing her dad with her, and then being a team of three that cleaned 50 hours a week, every week. Just fantastic quality. Like they were rock stars, lights out. But everyone that I tried to hire to supplement them was terrible. Like, I made maybe my first seven hires, six of them were tragic. One of them was awesome and then brought her husband and her dad. So it really became something where like they really were the crux of my business for quite a few months. But then on the flip side, when I started my newest location, my first 10 providers that I hired were all terrible. Like 10. I
Yeah.
could not keep a customer for the life of me. So much so that I got to a point where I actually closed it down for 3 months. I actually was just like, I'm over it. I need a break. I need to focus on something that's actually making me money and go from there. So, I mean, always hiring has been the highest leverage task. And the thing that I started implementing a whole year after starting is I really only target teams. I'm just not interested in hiring solo cleaners. Um,
Yep.
I want a team, and I will pay a premium, and that's totally fine with me. I'll reduce the margin so I can shoot out a team of three and go about it that way. They can do more jobs. I can deal with less people, and I have my point of contact, the team lead, and I just worry about them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because my first company too in Tampa, Florida, my first hire, probably the best hire to this date. And they did so many jobs and they did so good. But that was almost 3 years ago now. And one thing I did realize too, guys, is like even when you have those people who are great and they're your best cleaners, there's usually still a time frame on them because they start making more money, they start getting their own jobs, and it's great having them, but you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket because 1, 2 years down the road, usually maybe they get comfortable, maybe they don't want any more jobs, something will happen. So it is a volume game, Parker. It's like you said, you hired 10 cleaners and they all sucked. You have to just hire 10 more and you weed through them and find the good ones. But hiring, I think that's great advice. Hiring is probably the biggest constraint that a lot of cleaning businesses have. A lot of people probably want to hear from you too, Parker. Besides hiring, is also like, how'd you get your first few customers? Like, what did you do to get, let's just say, your first 10 customers? What were you using?
Yeah, so my very first location, and I'll be very transparent with this. The landscape was different. It was very different when I started my first location, man. I mean, I was in a mid-major city. My lead cost on LSA was $26 a lead, $23 a lead. There was
Yeah.
very minimal competition. I mean, I did my first 50K in business almost exclusively on local services ads and with a super low cost per lead and a super high closing rate. I mean, I think my first $50,000 of business was generated off of $3,000 of ad spend.
Okay. Okay. So, but yeah, I love how you're being transparent. Times have changed. It's not the same anymore, right? You can't just turn on LSA and can just print money anymore. However, you've clearly adapted to that, because if you didn't adapt to that, your business would have died out, because you always need new clients in this industry. Churn rate is sometimes ridiculously high. So what have you done, I guess, recently to kind of combat the competition and generate leads without LSA?
Yeah, so there's three different kind of sectors that I think everyone needs to, no matter where you are in your business's life cycle, unless you are just truly kind of in like a hibernation, like maintenance phase, which I had a 4 month period where I was like that. I wasn't really concerned with getting new customers. Just wanted to keep my existing customers happy, maybe deal with some referrals and some organic leads coming in, but like not really going out and seeking more jobs. If you are seeking more jobs, you've got to hit all three of these pillars, right? The first one is going to be outbound. That is either cold email, cold calling, reaching out through realtors, social media, all of that type of stuff. Your second one is going to be your inbound. This is going to be your local services ads, your Thumbtack, your Yelp, any type of like lead forms that you're putting out, or this is maybe your SEO, your things like that. And then the third one is going to be like a retargeting or an incentive program with your existing customers. This is going to be really offering people a good incentive to refer you more customers, or really offering people good deals to come back and work with you again. I mean, I started when I was early on in my business, I started a credit system where no matter what service you booked, you got, as upon the completion of your service, you got a credit for 10% of that service value immediately put on your account, right? Made up thing. I don't even that's not something that I could actually execute on. But what it was is it was me immediately telling every or every customer, "Hey, I'm so glad the service went well. Your $299 deep clean, just so you know, you've got a $30 credit on your account now for your next clean." Even if they had no interest in recurring, even if they told me a million times it's a one-time service, I went, and something I would give a nugget for anyone starting out is every single person that I spoke to before I hung up that phone, it was just a reminder again, you've got X credit, whatever. Even if I didn't close them on the service, my closing line is always, thank you so much, and thank you so much again for calling in. Again, my name is Parker. I'm the owner of this business. I oversee everything personally. So if you ever need anything, make sure you've just saved my phone number in your contact book as Parker Cleaner, or Parker Madison Maids, whatever you want to put it in there as. Make sure you save my number. If you ever need anything, or someone ever asks you for a reference, you can send them my way. Call or text me anytime, any day. And like that was something that I just got in the habit of, like every person, save my number, save my number, save my number, save my number. You've got credit with us. You've got credit with us. You've got credit for referring this person. And it just became this type of thing where I have gotten more than almost anyone I know, customers to call back 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later. I got a call 2 days ago from somebody who booked with us 18 months prior and called in, and they were like, "Hey, is this Parker?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Hey, I booked a deep clean with you, back in November. I was just calling to get another deep clean booked." And I'm looking, I'm like, I don't see this deep clean in November. They're like, "Oh yeah, November of 2023." And they're like, I saved your number as Parker Cleaner, and I remember talking to you and doing the service with you." Like that has gotten me so much business over the lifetime of the company. So kind of sidebar there, but those are my three pillars, I would say.
That's great. That's great. You have to be doing all three, especially now. You can't just rely on LSA. You can't just rely on outbound. You have to rely on a little bit of everything, unless you're somehow just gifted and you find one lead source that is just great for you. Double down on that. But for me, a little bit of everything has been great. Parker, how important has it been for you to follow up with clients in order to like convert them into recurring clients?
I think that is one thing that I have refused to really like slack on. Like I've refused to be cheap with that, with my time, with my energy, with my money. Like, it's everything. I mean, you're not going to get reviews without follow up. You're not going to get recurring customers without follow up. You're not going to get referrals without follow up. The clean is 80% of it, but that 20% is what actually cements that customer for you.
Yeah.
Like, and I say this again, the clean is 80%. No matter how great you are with follow up, you're not going to get any of that shit if your cleaners aren't good. But if your cleaners are good, the amount of those customers that you'll be able to convert into a 5-star review, a referral, a repeat customer, it's really going to be minimal unless your follow-up is just fine-tuned. And I recommend when you're just starting out, do it personally. Spend the time and just, it's annoying. No one likes doing it. Call every single one of your customers after you finish. Hey, I just wanted to make sure everything was, went fantastic for you. All this, would you mind leaving us a review? Your cleaner gets a bonus if you leave a 5-star review and you mention them, whatever, however you want to do it. But do it manually in the beginning. And then as your company grows, automate the second follow-up. Automate the third follow-up. Then eventually you get to a certain point where you kind of need to automate all of it.
That's where Clean Genie comes into play.
Absolutely. That's exactly where something like that would be like, at some point when you're looking at a long-term nurture, doing that manually is not going to happen. When you're looking at a long-term retargeting, doing that manually is not going to happen. When you're looking at the follow-up with the service or the follow-up with the customer that didn't pick up the phone when you called them the next day, those are the types of things we're bringing in automation. Or when you're doing 10 services a day, that's really where it becomes super valuable. But for the early stages, when it comes to review collection and recurring, do it yourself is what I would say.
Yep. To this day, I'll still take sales calls. I still follow up with clients because those are the two highest leverage things you can do. Like, I like what you said earlier, Parker. You said that's one thing I won't sacrifice. It's like, that's the most important thing you could do. And I think I made a tweet about this the other day. It's probably the biggest thing holding cleaning companies back who are doing less than like $20K a month in revenue. It's because they outsource sales and following up with clients to a virtual assistant too quickly. I know you're past that, Parker, but are you still handling sales?
I will tell you, I have done the virtual assistant thing. I'm not a fan of it. I think personally, like you just said, those are your two highest leverage tasks. If you need someone to cover hours when you're not going to be present mentally, that's one thing. But to just say, well, I've hit 15K a month, now I get a virtual assistant. People ask me that all the time. No, there isn't a revenue number for when you bring somebody in to take over those tasks. It is all about if the company's really ready for it or if you simply do not have the time. I personally still take sales calls for my newest location. I have an executive assistant who's my mom, who was retired and was just basically like, Parker, I really am looking for work. I want someone to keep me busy, someone to make a little bit extra money. So I spent 4 months now training her up, and she's slowly taking over sales calls from me. But still, if she gets into a spot where I'm like, where she's like, I don't really know exactly how to quote this, I don't really know. I'm just like, you just hang up and say, hey, the owner's going to call you back in the next 60 seconds and get me on the phone with them.
Yeah. I think that's that's a good trait to have. A lot of people I've noticed just clock out. They'll get a VA and they're just like, they're done. They're like, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. You handle this. And like, they're going to do the bare minimum most of the time. I got lucky. Actually, my first virtual assistant I hired, we always still handled sales to the end of time, but he was handling operations, handling customer support, all that stuff. And he was actually terrible. And I hung on. I love the guy. If you're watching this, I'm sorry. I hung on to him probably longer than I should have. But eventually we decided to make the switch to let him go because he basically went MIA for 2 days. And then we were like, that's the line. Like, we're finding someone else. We hired someone. Shout out to Sean Hires on Twitter. to just source a VA because I wanted to still go directly to someone, but I'm okay paying a placement fee. And I tried before that to find one myself. Couldn't do it. Went to remoteco.com. Couldn't find one. So then I hired this guy to go source one. He found me. I don't know what I would do without this guy. He is the best assistant operations manager I've ever worked with in my life. And I genuinely don't know what I would do without him. I still handle sales. I still handle follow-up with clients, but he's got everything else on lock. He's reliable. So I'm not against virtual assistants, and I don't think you are either. But I love the fact, too, Parker, that you hired your mom. Keeping it in the family, keeping it in the States, I definitely respect that, too. But VAs are like anything. It's like hiring cleaners. Like you need to vet them out properly. You need to have a strong hiring system, a strong interview process, and eventually you could find a good one. But if you want to break through all that and don't want to deal with any of that stress, just hire someone else to do it for you, you know?
Absolutely. A VA, it's another lever. It's another tool in the toolkit. It is not you automating your business and now you're just out of it. And that's the mistake people make. It would be like, if you bought a car wash and then you hired someone to dry the cars and you were like, well, the washing happens automatically and I got them to dry the cars, so now I just have an automated company. Like, no, you don't. There's so many pieces. You've hired somebody that can do a couple tasks for you very well and take things off your plate that are low-hanging fruit. But to just think that you've just got somebody who's just going to come in and run your company for you for $3 an hour in the Philippines, just use your head is what I would say to that.
Yeah. So, Parker, we are called here the Cleaning Business Audit. So we got to get into some numbers because that's what people want to hear. That's what people come here for. So let's get into it. I want to talk about your main... we don't have to go into all three because I know they're separate. What company would you like to break into a little bit with, like revenue and profit?
I would personally, I'd love to talk about my newest location.
That's what I want to do too.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so that's in Minneapolis, Minnesota. For those who don't know, I have run that business fully remote from its genesis. So, it's definitely it's my baby right now. It's the one I'm still taking sales calls for, and all of that. So I'd love to get into that one.
Yeah, great. Is that the one where you lost, almost basically shut it down? Okay, great. I want to talk about that because I think a lot of people could learn from this. So first get into how it was doing in the beginning, because I know you were killing it, and then what was the reason why it kind of lost traction and how you got it back up so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was actually, this business has been through hell and back. It was actually originally filed, I believe, the LLC was filed in June or July of 2024, and did nothing with it for the first 3 months. It might have even been May. And we filed it, we got it set up, and myself and the person I was kind of working on it with, we just were too busy with other stuff. We never hired, never turned ads on, we just weren't ready. Now, fast forward to, call it September, we were finally like, all right, let's get it going. Went out, hired cleaners, turned ads on, immediately caught wildfire, right? Month 1, we do maybe 8K. Month 2, we do 13. Month 3, we do 19. So we're like, it's just going.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of one-time cleans, a lot of one-time customers.
Yep.
One thing about that market is the average job size was very high, which is good, but these numbers felt like we were further along than we were, right? You're talking about, average job total being $400. Now it's like,
Wow.
oh, okay, 8K in revenue means we did 20 cleans. Like, it's really not actually that many services, not that many customers. And what happened was we grew very quickly, but with a very high customer dissatisfaction rate. Like, we were able to keep people off of the internet leaving bad reviews, but I was averaging a 10% refund on every single job.
Yep.
I was talking people off the ledge all day, sending cleaners back to do re-cleans, like all this. So my margins were just slimming and slimming and slimming. And I found that I was spending all my time like just fixing problems. That was it. It was just close a clean. This clean goes wrong. Fix that clean. Send the cleaners to this clean. Oh, now that one's going to go wrong. Like it was just, we got to the point where my Madison location was growing very quickly at the same time. It was taking up more of my time. November came around. I was just so burnt out because I was also running the lighting installation company, all this, and I was literally answering the phone for three businesses at once while it was then holiday time. And I was like, all right, Thanksgiving came. I said, nope, shutting off all the ads, and never went and got better cleaners, just rode with my existing cleaners, turned off ads. And we went from, December, like I turned them off Thanksgiving weekend, turned off all the ads. And we went from being at like, let's say 18K that month to 13K in December to 5K in January to 2K in February. And all of a sudden, basically realized, all right, we either need to lock back in on this or just close it down and be done. But I knew that there was really, really significant demand. Like the lead flow was excellent. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to refocus back up on this. I've got Christmas lights off my plate. I've got someone helping me now with the Madison location. Let's refocus back up on it. Went out, whole new crop of hires, fired all the old cleaners, started again from zero. And that would have been March. We had, we returned ads back on like March 17th or 15th. And in March, we did 3K. And then in April, we had a whole month running and rolling again, and we went right back to 12K. And now we're in May right now. We'll finish May over 20K. So we are like literally right back above where we left off in November.
And so how long was that break you had? Once you went down to 2K, you took like a few months off?
Yeah, it was like 4 months. Between 4 months where like we were really inactively running the business. And
Yeah.
that was all December, all January, all February, half of March. So maybe three and a half.
And it seems like the biggest issue was just quality. You were just dealing with poor
Yeah.
cleaners, and it just slowly went downhill from there. And also you were slammed with a bunch of other businesses as well. So
I mean, I was selling jobs literally knowing in the back of my mind, like, I'm selling this job at 500 because it's a big, full, deep clean. Because that was all we were doing was big, deep, and move out clean. And I'm like, I know that my cleaner can't do this. Like, they're
yeah.
not going to do a good job. And then I'm going to be back on the phone with this guy, and he's going to be chewing my ear off, and I'm going to be giving him a refund and then yelling at the cleaner. Like, it was just,
Probably impacted your sales too, because deep down, like we probably won't do a good job with this, and that conviction is important to have when you're on the phone with clients.
absolutely.
That's crazy. I love a good comeback story. I think a lot of people aren't public with the situation on the internet. They always talk about like the good things that happen, but they never talk about the downsides and when they're losing money and when things don't go their way. But I'm happy that you learned from it, and I'm sure other people could hopefully learn from that mistake too.
Absolutely, man. I mean, ultimately, with this model, your biggest lever is your service, right? You're selling home services. So the one thing I would have done differently if I was just a little bit more, I think disciplined would probably be the right word. I would have just fired the cleaners way earlier on
Yeah.
before it got to this November, December. I'm, dealing with so many issues, and the problem is I'm a people person, and I get relationships with the service providers, and I keep thinking like, like a misbehaving child, like, oh,
hmm
they're gonna figure it out, and they don't. They never do.
Yeah, and bad service providers are like a poison because they'll just leach into the company. They'll do the bare minimum, and you have to catch on to early things as quickly as possible. And when there's little signs, you don't have to immediately fire them, but you have to correct them quickly. Like one thing that was a big issue for my company a while ago is punctuality, and we have an arrival window, so clients aren't too we're a little flexible. But when providers are 30 minutes late and they don't text you consistently, It's something that a lot of companies will just let go by without going unnoticed. But I had a call with the a provider the other day. She was about it was about her third job, and she was a new provider. I just called her, and I basically said, "Look, punctuality is super important. You've been doing a good job once you got to the cleans, but we need to know in advance. We could move these jobs if we know in advance. If you keep doing this, like we're gonna have to let you go." And she's never been late since that one conversation. But if you don't have that conversation, you just assume they'll correct her and maybe send a text message, then it's just going to be a problem continuously. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you would be lying to yourself if you think that a service provider is like genuinely cares, right? And it's that's something I struggle with because I take a lot of care and pride in my work, but it's because I work for myself, right? And when a service provider is just sees you as a means to make money,
mhm.
if they can do the minimum and still make money, that's exactly what they're going to do. Because most of the time, and this is not the rule for everyone, but the majority of the time, that is what it is. It's a means to make money. If they can make more money elsewhere, they will. If they can make the same money doing less work, they will. Like that's
Yep.
just how we are as human beings. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but it can be extremely detrimental to your company if you have not set expectations properly and if you just let it go on for too long. Since then, I have adopted a two strike policy. It's one strike if it's your first job, and it's two strikes otherwise. And I think as a general rule, like every 3 months, I say like the strikes reset. But that's just really what I found works for me. I'm not a one strike guy, but I am a two strike guy at this point. Like if I
Yeah.
have to clean up your mess twice, you're gone.
Yeah, I think that's a great rule. I've noticed I had a little trouble keeping track of that. So I know you're familiar. I'm building Schedule Job, scheduling software, CRM, kind of all in one tool. One thing we implemented in this software is a provider scorecard. So each technician will have a scorecard where we could keep specific notes on there, mark when they're late, mark what they're good at. And there's a bunch of KPIs you could track in that scorecard where you'll be able to see how many clients went to recurring, how many clients canceled from this cleaner. It's really in depth per provider, which I'm very excited to use soon to keep track of that because it is over time. I know that the strikes do you kind of I do the same thing. You renew the strikes, but it's really easy to lose track of how
Absolutely.
providers are doing.
Absolutely. And honestly, I find it just comes from a place of laziness, which is a shame, but it just really is what it is. I mean,
Totally right.
I have hung on to cleaners for so long, and yeah, I can sit here and say like, "Oh, well, it's just because I really liked them and I thought they were going to figure it out." No. It was just because I was too effing lazy to
Hmm.
go out and find somebody to replace them. It was because they already had cleans on their schedule that week and like, "Oh, I know they didn't do good on this one, but the one they did yesterday, the customer was so happy
Yeah.
about." It's just easier. It's the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And the work that's needed for one is, well, maybe the customer's going to complain and I got to put work into fixing it. But if I want someone new, I know I definitely have to put work into
And you have
interviewing.
to spend money, you have to pay for ads, you have to pay for a test cleaning if you do that. And that's one of the low hanging fruits that I think most people should have their VA do. Or, like I would say, operations, customer support, and then also hiring is super important because now when I know a cleaner's bad, I just say, hey, please hire the people in this area. And they'll do everything for us. And it makes it a lot easier to just stop working with someone because you know you're not going to have to deal personally with the entire hiring process because it is a pain. It's
Oh,
very easy to just get lazy and just hang on to someone. Same thing I did with my virtual assistant. I was too lazy to go find someone else for so long,
well, and the
and
VA is even more so because you have to train them, right?
train them. It's yeah.
You don't have to train a cleaner in the same way. At least you shouldn't, you know. So the
Yeah.
cleaner headache, it's more of an onboarding headache, but the VA headache, it's like, oh my God, I've sunk 3 months of time into like getting you to know what you're doing.
Even
Like,
a year and a half with this person. I taught them everything. I've spent hours on sales training with this person. Now I have to restart with someone new. But the only question you're going to be asking yourself once you do make that decision, you find someone new, is why didn't I do this earlier?
yep, always,
And you have to
always.
just tell yourself that.
Yeah.
But Parker, you are actually the officially the biggest cleaning company we've had on here, which because normally we have on smaller cleaning companies and kind of get more into their financials and see what they could do to improve. But what's some advice you would have for me and for the audience who's listening to help grow their cleaning companies?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is, well, I'm going to split this into two. One is if you are just starting or like haven't even started, like you're like very, very origin, right? The one thing that I think people really, really, really do wrong is picking their location. Like your location is everything. It's everything, especially in the current climate. When you are just starting out right now, like to just say, I live in X city, so I'm going to start in X city, it's so short sighted. Like, please understand why you want to be in a certain market, and you can do this remotely. You genuinely can. It is better to do this across the country from a good service area than in your own backyard in a shitty service area. So that's the first thing that I'm going to say. Now, the second thing that I'm going to say, if you're like Parker, it's too late for that, man. I got cleaners already. I am where I am. Then what I would say is don't don't shy away from trying. If you get to the point where you've got a little book of business that can allow you the luxury of experimentation, you have to do it. I mean, I cannot even tell you how many people I listen to say Yelp is an absolute money suck waste. Like, I mean, I can only imagine, Max, that you have just heard all of the Yelp slander in the world. Like, no one likes Yelp. Yelp.
Angie slander too.
Oh, I mean, Yelp has made me tens of thousands of dollars. And maybe it's my service area. Maybe it's the way that I handle the leads. Maybe it's the settings that I use. I can't tell you the exact recipe, but what I can tell you is that if I just heard somebody on the internet say, stop wasting your money running ads on Yelp, and then stopped doing Yelp, I would have lost tens of thousands of dollars. My two largest cleans that I have ever done came from Yelp. A $5,000, basically like full gut of a home, and then a $15,000 deep cleaning of a senior living center. Yelp leads,
Wow.
$3 Yelp leads.
That's both those things, Parker. Honestly, great advice. I agree with both of them, especially number two, because I've been guilty of it myself. I've told people many times, like, I don't recommend Andrews, I don't recommend X, Y, and Z because I haven't had a good experience with it. But that doesn't mean that they might have a different experience. They might be better at sales than me. They might be better at following up than me. They might be in a better location than me. So I don't think you should really listen to anyone when it comes to what to do to generate leads or what to do for your business. Try it for yourself, and you don't have to spend a crazy amount of money. Try it for yourself and see the results from there. Because, yeah.
And
Go ahead,
no,
Mark.
that's exactly it. Because, I mean, for me to say I don't recommend it, I don't recommend Angie's, but that doesn't mean that it won't work, right?
Yeah.
What I recommend doing is just tracking everything. This is the one thing I wish I would have done better for my Madison location. Track everything. Cast your net as far and wide as you possibly can and know where every single dollar that you are spending is going and know where every single dollar that's coming into your business is coming from. Because so many people I speak to, when I'm doing third party consulting, all the time I sit down and the very first thing that I say is, okay, what lead gen are you using? What's your return on your ad spend there? And why are you not using the other ones? And all the time I hear, well, I don't use Yelp because, when I tried it, it just didn't work for me. Okay, how much did you spend? I'm not sure. Well, how much did you bring in? How many? I don't know. I think maybe like we only closed like 5 cleans. You have no idea if Yelp worked for you. You have no idea. Because
Yep.
if we actually go look through it, and I've had this exact conversation, and we go look through, and it's like, oh, wait, Thumbtack wasn't working for me. Okay, we look, okay, so you spent $1,000 on Thumbtack in April. You brought in $700 of one time bookings, and you said, oh, it does not, Thumbtack didn't work for me. But you're failing to account for the fact that one of those people is now on a $200 monthly service. That's a net positive. That is
Yeah.
positive return on ad spend there. But if you didn't have the data, you would have no idea of knowing.
Absolutely right. Everyone needs to know your numbers. Parker, I know you have a call at 3:30, so we could wrap this up here. But next one we're gonna do, Parker. Let's do it in person. We're not too far.
Absolutely, yeah. We're an hour away. We'll go to a nice studio, give the people something even better to look at here. But Max, I appreciate you having me, man. This was great. I'd love to talk again in 3 months and hopefully be at 100K a month and go from there.
Of course, of course. If anyone needs any help, I know Parker runs a great mentorship program. So reach out to Parker. I'll put his information in the description below. Also, do have a free community too if you guys want to join that. The link will also be below. But Parker, appreciate you having you on, and I'll see you soon. All right.